Welcome. Thank you so much to everyone who has joined us. We are having just kind of a fun stream here. My purpose in having this stream was threefold. One, I'm getting my second vaccine on Monday, and I'm not sure that I'm going to be in any condition to stream on Tuesday evening like I usually do. And second, I have wanted to have Dave, Critical Cripple, on my channel for a very long time. And I've asked him a number of times, but every time I have asked, he's either been busy or I have asked him for a time that is an ungodly hour in the UK. So I said, okay, let's schedule a stream that is not at an ungodly hour for people in the UK, and we'll have an all Brit stream. And here we are. So thank you for coming, Dave.
No problem. I think I'm glad I could make it. I mean, the last one that you had, you moved it slightly earlier for me, and then I had to pull out.
Yeah. And thank you, Jeff.
Ahoy.
And thank you, Esther.
You're welcome.
And I don't know where Sam is, but I'm sure Sam will join us as soon as he is able to. And so I thought I would start us with a topic that I saw in the chat already, which was this comment from Tarum06. Apart from the Brit, oops, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. But that it was a comment from here. Here it is. So are the British coming back to reclaim the colony?
Well, I discussed this at length last night. I was on a stream last night. What was I on last night? Right. Well, clearly, it's the Christian nationalists. They want to go back to divine rule.
Oh.
So we have to come back and take over. It has to be our monarchy.
That's a good point.
I think that there's an argument to be made, or at least certainly there certainly was under, should we say, the previous administration of your country, that America isn't really ready for independence yet.
I actually have to side with you on that. We're not doing such a hot job of taking care of ourselves right now.
We will settle for like 250 years in back tea duty, though. If you feel strongly about the independence thing, we'll just accept back taxes in tea duty.
Okay.
No, I think we want it all back. I think we're going to have it.
When you start talking about the British colonizing, and you need to, the stories that you hear from Africa and how they took over and how they they're very, very horrible stories. There's no way they want the British back. I mean, the damage that they've done, the effects are still felt till this present day. So, I mean, take a country like Nigeria. Nigeria was just a country, they were doing well. They were probably doing well. And then the British decided we would name this country the Niger area. And they called it Niger area, Nigeria. So they put the country together, right? They mapped it out and said, okay, this is Nigeria. Because I don't think the people then they weren't keen on having the states, and it just wasn't their thing. But the British people decided we'll go in there and we will map it out, and it's now so. And now the British are long gone since 1960. And as tensions are rising, because the Oduduwa nation, they said, we want our nation back. We never asked to be part of this Nigeria thing. The British did this, and they're gone. Now the people, the Biafrans, they want their place back, and then the Fulanese. So it's the effects of colonizing and doing all these things, many years later, it's still being felt. I mean, there's some countries that British and the French and the is it the what's it Portuguese? No,
The Belgians.
the belt or the you don't want
Yeah,
to know.
less said about the Belgians, the better. Which is sad.
I don't think any European nation comes out.
No, it's sadly is about the best defence I ever hear of the British Empire. Is at least we didn't do what the Belgians did in Africa. I was like, that's not a defence. That is not a defence. I'm sorry.
No.
If you look at like the maps of like Africa and the Middle East, though, you just noticed how all the countries seem to be divided along very, very straight parallel lines as compared with anywhere else in the world. And so you can kind of see that, this was all divided up amongst the Europe, these two, Africa and then the Middle East, all very much divided up along, the European colonial powers.
At least we managed to sort out the Israeli problem once and for all.
Dave, are you trying to get yourself feelings about that?
Did you solve the problem, Dave?
Oh, we solved it completely.
Did we
Yeah.
solve the problem?
Yeah, that worked really well.
It did. Oh.
Hello, Sam.
Hello, Sam.
Come here.
You there, Sam?
No.
Oh well.
Okay.
I mean, it's to me when
To be fair to Sam, a lot of
consider-
this colonial stuff happened before Sam was born. Just to be fair.
To be fair, most of it happened before I was born.
Yeah, lots of it happened.
Don't exaggerate, Dave.
Most of us were
It happened
born.
before I was born.
Do you think if we sell Australia, we could buy some of the nice countries back in Africa?
Let's let Esther finish first, but that's a good
Yeah.
question. Let's hold on to that one. But Esther, what were you saying?
Okay, I was going to say about I saw a video recently. When the colonial masters came, and as they came, they also brought the missionaries, and the missionaries would go to the villages and go to the local areas with the Bibles and the picture of Jesus, right? The picture of the white Jesus. And they're showing to the people, telling them that your deities that you worship and the things you worship are evil. But here's our own, this is our guy, right? This is our Jesus. He's better than your lot. He's better than what you've got. So you've got to give away your deities, give away the things you worship for our own. So a lot of people in Africa believe that Jesus is white. You need to see the pictures of Jesus everywhere in people's houses. He's blonde hair, blue eyes, and particularly there's the one picture where Jesus is pointing into his heart and like inviting people, come. And now I when I see those pictures, I'm angered because
I'm gonna say I am more ashamed. I've got no shame for what my ancestors did as Brits, because that's a country. I am deeply ashamed for what they did imposing religion.
Right.
I think that is far worse than colonizing.
Yes.
It fundamentally changes how a people develop. You can imprison people and not do that.
I don't think you can separate the two in terms of the way that Christianity was spread mainly. I'd say more so in Africa than most other places that we colonized.
We used religion to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a justification, and it was not only a justification because it was the whole quote unquote civilizing mission. But yeah, I mean, converting Africans to Christianity was a big part of that. I don't think you can entirely separate the two.
What's most interesting, obviously, is that they've now got it, and they are doing their own stuff with it, and it is going to come into direct conflict with the rest of the Christians and the rest of the world.
Well, I mean, obviously,
that's the thing. When you go and impose your religion to people who have no clue whatsoever, so a lot of the people in Africa, someone can just wake up one morning and decide, I have been called by God. I had a dream, and God came to me in the dream and told me to set up my own church. There's no guidance. They don't bother to go to no seminary school or theology school, nothing. And you get these people, before you know it, they've got 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 members, and they become they're up there. They're up there on the chain, and no one can speak to them because I am called by God. And you think, okay, so the people who brought this religion, right? The people who they've packed their bags and they've gone, but now you've got it now, and you're using it to manipulate and to control and to deceive people, and it's all in the name of God. I mean, even the House of Assemblies in the government offices, they would say prayers before they take decisions on the countries. The vice president of Nigeria,
They even do that here.
The vice president of Nigeria, he was talking to the nation about security, because lots of things have been happening, kidnappings and Boko Haram and all these things. And he was telling the country about the security in the country. He was saying, "Oh, we need to commit this into the hands of God." So when your vice president puts the security of a country in the hands of God, what hope do you have?
Secular Rarity has an interesting question. I'd like to answer it first, which is, I'd love to hear the guest's thoughts on the increase in violence in Northern Ireland. And as to the United States, this doesn't even make the news. We have so much gun violence here. We are having mass shootings on a daily basis here. This doesn't even make our news.
It doesn't make our news here either.
No, it's not. It really hasn't.
It does.
Not much. Not on the scale that it's happening.
You hear some of it. I mean, the last few days we've heard about Trayvon Martin. There's two young lads who've died recently. I think two of them were by the police. So we hear about these things.
I said, I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's complete, but the scale. I mean, when Robbie first came to us with the footage that's been put out in Northern Ireland, it's basically every night now there is violence.
What happened? I don't know what happened in Northern Ireland.
I've got to hold my hand up here on this topic. This is a topic I've been acutely aware of it. I haven't really followed it as much as I really perhaps should be.
Did you know that the DUP had pulled out the Good Friday Agreement?
I didn't know. I sort of said I have not been paying. Mainly, I have not been paying a lot of attention to the news recently. Mainly because in the past week I've just been trying to escape the whole Prince Philip thing, to be honest. So I haven't been watching any news. But
it's not been on the news. It's always been on the news is Prince Philip.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the table.
The table.
20 years ago, when things were just as bad as they are now, I have a cousin in New York that there was a government program where they were sending some children from Northern Ireland to the United States to find out what it's like to live in a peaceful area. And my cousin lived in New York and took in one of these children. And I'm thinking,
What the hell?
Why would you send someone to New York to find out what it's like to live in peace? New York is not a peaceful place.
Mm.
What?
Hello. After
Hi.
20 minutes, after 20 minutes of tech issues, I am finally here.
Hello.
Very good.
All right, let's throw Sam in the deep end. Northern Ireland, Sam, what's your take?
My take is I need to read more first.
That's kind of mine.
That's been the take of everybody here.
Thank you.
We've kind of all concluded that Math Pig is the only one that knows what's going on there.
Mm. It's something and it's always an issue that I feel I'm always a little wary of talking about it. I got my perhaps views on where I stand on, should we say, nationalism versus republicanism or so on, but I find it's a difficult thing to talk about because it's a very emotional issue. I mean, and not just to sort of somebody say like Math Pig who has lived this. It's an emotional issue even to people in England because they remember the bombing campaigns and the troubles and from the troubles that happened on the British mainland and it's really a very emotional issue for a lot of people, and I don't think it's going away. Sadly, it's one of those things. I mean, to be honest, it's maybe something that I probably do need to speak on a bit more because I don't think, as ultimately these, they're difficult conversations we're all going to have if we're ever going to get anywhere on that issue. I think, but
the problem was it was always.
Yes.
I feel like the only view that I'm informed enough to make on the whole thing with Northern Ireland is that one of the reasons we probably shouldn't have done Brexit at least just yet is that there's a bunch of stuff that needed resolving there because with the potential to split Ireland and Northern Ireland into completely separate borders again, what could the troubles go wrong there?
Yeah, and I think pretty sure was it Math Pig who said in the chat actually that there is more.
Brexit.
It's more to it than Brexit.
But Brexit is a major point, though.
Yeah.
I think that the issue is it was purely. It got to a point where it was purely an emotional fight. It was bitter. It was emotional. There could not be this thing because families were fighting families. And they killed one, you killed one. There was no possibility. And with the Good Friday Agreement, they managed to get past that. And the problem you have now, the longer it goes on right now, the old people are instilling into the young that hatred, that emotional hatred. And the longer it goes on right now, that's going to build and kick off a whole new generation of people that will never be able to forgive because it's their friends and their family that have been killed.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why you can't speak. You hear people that try and sum it up in economic terms, in political terms. None of that really matters. That's all a side effect to the fact that those people over there hurt my family. They killed my family. That's all. It's all it became. And that's where it's heading again if it doesn't stop.
Do you think religion still plays any part of it?
No, I mean they are religious, and it is there it is there in everyday life for everyone. But
because it started as a Catholic versus Protestant thing.
Not
but
really. It started as a Republican versus nationalist thing.
It started as being labelled as a religious thing. Whether it was actually a religious thing in the first place or not, I'm dubious of, but again, lack of information.
Religion's played a part, but I don't know necessarily. Again, it's one of those things, possibly what I was saying earlier about when we were talking about Africa, we can't divide the issue from religion from that of colonialism.
It's used.
It can't be, maybe this is an example that is a little closer to home for us than perhaps Africa. It's on our doorstep. I don't think you can divorce the two entirely.
I will tell you one thing I am fascinated to discover. If the Troubles carry on and do return to the sort of level they did before, prior to a certain event in America, the majority of the funding for one side came from America.
Yes, that's very well documented. I mean, it was it was quite well documented that you could go into, should we say, a lot of bars in somewhere like Boston, and there would be a collection jar for the IRA behind the bar. It was a lot, but yeah, this was a bit of a, because this is a little bit of a kind of, I think a little bit of a stick when the war on terror started. I used to hear from a lot of English people at Americans is, well, you want to fight terror all of a sudden, you lot have pretty much funded the IRA. Like, come on here,
Going back
I do think, and this has always been my contention. This has always been one thing I've held to, is that with the Republican cause, that they, I believe, are always going to be on a hiding to nothing if they, use armed struggle and what was used by the IRA for many years. They are on a hiding to nothing, because I was definitely of the firm belief that their goal would never ever be achievable unless there was a lot of solidarity for their cause in England itself. And once you start bombing campaigns and that starts, you are never going to get that.
I'm intrigued to know what happens.
You're never going to build a strong solidarity movement that people will have sympathy for whilst that is on the table.
Do you think right now that the majority of the people in the UK give a stuff if we lose Northern Ireland?
Probably.
I think a lot of them wouldn't care. I'll be honest. A lot of people on the mainland, you mean?
Yeah.
In England, Scotland could be in it another, because Scotland's.
But I think Scotland will use it for their own independence.
Scotland has its own sort of sectarian issues to an extent as well, but.
I am of the view that most people won't give a shit, but the people who do give a shit will be loud.
Oh, yes.
Going back to the idea of what would happen if the UK retook the United States, you were mentioning, Dave, that the United States is kind of headed toward a theocracy, and so that's why we kind of need England as our ruler. But how much actual power does the church have in the UK?
We don't know is the true answer to that question.
Okay.
We see bits. They have undue power. I mean, we now know that. I mean, the Christians, the nuns now outnumber the others. I like that.
I would say that on paper they don't. But on paper they have lots of power. When you look at it, it doesn't look like they have much power, but culturally they have a bit at least.
Oh, they have. Yeah, I mean, having the permanent seats in the House of Lords, and they influence legislation. Yeah. They massively influence legislation. I mean, the Prime Minister has private chapel and before Parliament. I can't talk. What they have is every day they are right at the heart of government.
I'm part of a local humanist group, right? And the Association for the UK Humanists. There was a big drive for people to vote. Not vote. The last what do you call it? The census.
Yeah.
The last census, which was done just a few weeks ago, there was a big drive for people who do not believe to document that and say we don't believe, because hopefully when the information is all put together, then it be clear then to see, and hopefully the church would, you know, I think they're losing their powers just slowly every day. And when
they're losing their people, they're not losing their power. That's the problem.
Losing the people. And when the census is finally put together and they realize, gosh, we have lost people. I
am genuinely depressed that it's going to take 3 years for us to get the answer to this, because I think it's going to show a big swing.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't think all the Pew Research surveys that have the same information much faster would have the same effect?
In what? Not in terms of actually influencing policy. The Pew Research is if anything, it gives them a warning. But you can't. They're very difficult questions to answer, because an awful lot of people in this country will say they are a Christian, even though they really aren't.
I can think of at least 4 people off the top of my head who I know who call themselves cultural Christians and put Christian on the census.
Yeah. I mean, the weird thing is, it's a bit of a sad thing in a way that, you want more people on the census to come, but it's a bit of a sad thing in a way that it was a bit of more of a success that something was done as a joke about 20 years ago when we had a census, got more traction, and that was the big push to get Jedi recognized.
Yeah. I was torn between putting Jedi and pagan, because the pagans need the numbers, but Jedi is funny.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of the viewers, the reason African Humanist has now turned off her microphone and her picture, she said that she had to pick up her son. And if you notice, she was in her car. Her son's event must have ended, and so she's now driving home. She may come back to us on the microphone, but she can't put the picture on because she's driving.
She says she's be back in a bit. I'll just see in the chat.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm still here, just driving home now.
Nice. God, today's been a day.
Yeah.
A day.
I was just sound the.
I say that, but actually, it's been a fairly good day. I'm just all peopled out in relation to my family because it's my birthday, and so they've all visited.
Is it?
Happy birthday.
Yep. Happy birthday. So you're 19 now?
Yep.
Oh, don't say that's depressing.
We got
He's the same age as Robin.
Right, Sam, from now on, we're adding 20. Okay, you're 39.
There we go.
Works for me.
Have we got to give Sam the bumps?
We have. He's still young enough.
Neil still freaks out slightly whenever I mention my age.
It's just like when we talk about Northern Ireland and you weren't even there for the Good Friday Agreement.
No, I wasn't there for 9/11, let alone the Good Friday Agreement.
No.
Sam, if you lived where I do in Alabama, you would now be an adult for the first day in your life.
You'd have been married for 5 years, and maybe just
you still can't have a drink though.
Yeah,
that's right.
Oh, I know. I'm sat here having cider at the moment. God, but I will mention now. I am planning to do after this a stream on my channel, just kind of for my birthday and for hitting 100 subscribers, because both happened around the same time.
You've got 100 people to agree.
Hey, good little milestone.
It is.
Yeah.
You're one of those people.
Thank you to the people in the chat.
You are going to leave us all in the dust before long, Sam, I think.
Have you decided what you're going to have your short URL to be?
You can change your URL. That's the thing I've missed.
I need to actually do that on mine, actually, to be honest.
Do you not like yours? I like yours.
But mine's in my old handle on YouTube. I really need to change it, and I've just been a bit lazy about it.
I was going to say, wouldn't it be better to change your Twitter handle as well?
I have that in. Yeah, I don't know. I've got a backup Twitter account that I don't really use, but it's there as a backup in case I get Twitter jailed or nuked off Twitter for saying something I shouldn't, but because that can tend to happen these days.
I need to make a backup Twitter account, and I haven't.
I went to try and find it, and I can't because Twitter's broken.
So, at what point can you get short URLs?
Now, 100.
Oh, okay. That's a thing I'll have to spoke to you about later then. Because fuck if I know what that's about.
Did we lose Granny?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, Granny's frozen, I think.
Yeah, so I have Magic the Gathering cards older than me, is kind of the way I phrase it.
Yeah, you are. The trouble is, I sometimes when I talk to you, I forget how young you are because you are wise beyond your years. So,
thanks. It's a trauma.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's because she was conspiring with the Brits to take over.
Yeah, we did say the Brits are taking over.
There we go. Kick Granny out of her own stream.
Right. Now Granny's gone. Listen up, ungrateful colonials. Okay.
We want our tea tax.
By decree of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, 1, we want our tea duties. 2, you are clearly not capable of managing your own affairs. Therefore, we shall take.
Declaration of annexation.
Yes.
And in honor of us taking you back over, we shall give you COVID blankets.
Yes.
Yeah, that seems fair. And the Queen would also like you to send some eligible bachelors. She's recently come onto the market.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw a thing the other day that was an image of like a Tinder profile for the Queen that said,
I think Jenny Morgan might be interested.
Yeah. Yeah, America now belongs to us again.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
First step your channel tomorrow, Washington DC. Pale Blue Mama's telling me to watch myself.
If we take over America, it'll make immigration easier.
It will.
That's a good point.
I mean, not that it'll help Northern Ireland will be part of Ireland, and that won't count. So, swings and roundabouts.
Then we'll have stores all around here again that have signs that say "No mix."
Well, I mean, it's a sad thing. I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, I mean, there used to be signs on British pubs that would say, quote, "No blacks, no Irish, no dogs." So, yeah.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is they'd let dogs in.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
The sad thing is that probably the dogs got let in before the other two. That's probably the sad thing about it, but
I used to work at a few dog-friendly pubs. That was interesting. See, the thing about me being the age I am, Dave, is that I do not remember having a Labour government ever.
That's disturbing.
Actually,
You don't remember Margaret Thatcher?
Can I just say, Granny? I hope that was a joke.
Well, I'm thinking now. I'm trying to remember what year
I will
Margaret
say
Thatcher left.
okay. The first prime minister when I was Margaret Thatcher. Okay, so then we had Tony Blair and Gordon Brown.
Wait! What about Mr. Underpants?
He's forgettable. Sorry, I forget about him. Mr. John Major. I will say, having lived through Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, I can honestly say I don't ever remember having a Labour government either.
Fair enough. The first one I remember is President Pig Dick. Not President, Prime Minister, words. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yes, no, Prime Minister Pig Dick's the first one that I remember.
The Right Honourable David Cameron.
Yeah, that wanker.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, you're right. It's easy to. I'm sorry, Dave, but it's easy to forget John Major, isn't it? Let's be honest.
And yet, you instantly knew who I was talking about.
Yeah, it's like, I had to be reminded of him. He
It's
was,
like, oh, that one. That one.
I mean, that guy's. Yeah, I mean, this is there was a for those who don't know, there was a famous British satire show called Spitting Image, and when John Major was the Prime Minister, they had him like his skin, everything about him totally grey, just because he was the most boring man in he just was just this boring non-entity of a man that somehow became Prime Minister ever.
Fair enough. So that just sounds like he's interesting the same way Keir Starmer is Labour.
Yeah. Actually, I've got to say that I actually do have to give credit to the British Labour Party that they have successfully managed to actually get a leader with even less charisma than John Major, which is quite incredible.
Oh.
So how much do the Brits care about the funeral today? I mean, would you say the country's divided about half and half, that half of the people care and half the people don't give a hoot? Or
I think I
less
know
than
maybe I think I know maybe 3 people that give a shit. More Londoners care.
But you mostly live in the city.
I think I'd say this. There's not been. I mean, I think. Even within a day of it, like people, even people I know who are certain, probably royalists, are saying, "Oh, for God's sake, BBC, knock it off with all the Prince Philip tributes."
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing: if it was the Queen, I think there'd be a different story in the amount of.
Oh yeah,
that would be a different story. I think people are there's a less emotional attachment to Prince Philip.
I think the thing with Philip is that he died several years ago anyway. We now just have one less zombie apocalypse to worry about.
Well, as I was saying before we went on stream, I mean, of course, there is a cargo cult in the island of Tanner that worships Prince Philip as a god.
Mm.
And obviously. They're probably. I mean, they're obviously way more distraught about it than British people. I think because I mean, this guy was their god.
Yeah, that would certainly freak them out, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how little I care about the royals is that I always got Philip and Harry mixed up.
Mm. I was having trouble remembering which one was older, Harry or his brother, because Harry is in the news all the time and not his brother. And so I thought, oh, Harry must be next in line to the throne after Charles, and then looked it up. No, it's not.
No, it does not. No, it's William. It'd be Charles, William, and William. Then William. Is it George? Is it the oldest one? I forget which. I forget all the names of the royal brats. They've been popping out over the last few years, but
I think the biggest the biggest show that I've seen in the United States for royalty that I've seen in my lifetime was when Charles and Di got married. I know that all the girls in my high school were just lamenting the fact that Prince Charles was no longer available.
I will actually say, if I've ever seen an outpouring of grief over the death of a member of the royal family, and technically she wasn't really a member of the royal family, her death was Diana's.
Mm-hmm.
There's another person that I don't remember, but have been to the memorial of.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing because I was never a big fan of hers, but she sort of ended up in a bit of a war with the PR war with the royal family, and it was. If you ever want to see the double standards of the British tabloid press, you need to look at Princess Diana, because when she died, it was the death of a saint, the death of an angel. Literally, these were things that were being said. 2 weeks earlier, before she died, the same newspapers were calling her slut and whore. Okay, that's
Yeah,
how.
I mean,
Well. It's fair, Jeff. To be fair, she was dating a foreigner.
Mm.
I mean, there are standards to uphold.
Well, do you know the most sick one? Do you know how the tradition of sick jokes used to happen on the day of something? Something happened that I actually phoned up a friend of mine that day, and because we were supposed to go out to the pub later, and I said, "We still going out?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said to him, "Have you heard the news about Princess Diana?" And do you know what his response to me was? "Yeah, she's as dead as a dodie." I was like, "Oh, that was stiff."
The Graveman says,
Dave?
"Queen of Hearts, my ass."
The Queen married a foreigner. Oops, wrong one.
No, but the Queen married a royal. Basically, they were both German.
I see.
Well, they were with the Greek royal fact that
they were all German.
They were German. They were the Battenberg family, wasn't it? Which they obviously changed the name to the more English-sounding Mountbatten, as like our royal family changed its name from Saxe-Coburg-Gotha to Windsor, when being German wasn't so popular anymore.
The Kennedys are about the closest thing the U.S. has ever had to a royal family, and
Well, you got the
Excuse me. The royal family is the closest the Americans have had to a royal family.
I'm going to say you've got the Cardassians now.
That's true. We do have the Cardassians. But anyway, I was going to point out that Jackie Kennedy dated and married a foreigner after the death of John.
Aristotle Onassis, yeah. I've been very close. I know you couldn't step up foot on it. When I went on a sailing holiday in Greece not long after I finished my GCSE exams, I actually sailed right past the island of Scorpios, which was the private island of the Onassis family. And then you go to the main town, which more up there, the main town that was not, on another larger island, not so far away. And all the shops that they were there for they were the tourist traps. Obviously, was the big thing was Jackie Onassis used to get her goods here, that sort of thing.
I feel like a lot of those claims are the same way as these are the teeth of Saint Peter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, the best one happened to a friend of mine, actually, in terms of a tourist trap, was in America. Was some guy Gettysburg National Park and Memorial tried to sell a friend of mine a sword, which he claimed was the sword that belonged to Stonewall Jackson when he fought at the Battle of Gettysburg. Yeah, it wasn't. Unfortunately for him, this particular friend of mine knew his history. He's like, well, that's amazing, considering that he died. That Stonewall Jackson died at Chancellorsville, which was several months before the Battle of Gettysburg. So.
I had a question. I forgot it. Someone said that the British royal bloodline is all messed up. Half of Britain is almost certainly related to the British royals now.
Oh, really?
Well,
I guess that makes sense. You're a small country.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be the whole royal family were French, and then it kind of shifted over to German, and now it's been more integrating with the population, sort of, not really.
I always boggle at the fact that technically we're all basically Vikings, because the Norse came that way, and the French were the Norman. They were the Northmen. They came up as well. All the Anglo-Saxons and the things that came in, they're all freaking Vikings, apart from the Celts that were there first.
I mean, technically speaking, any given invading force is Vikings, but that's me being a peasant.
It's just fair enough.
If you go back far enough, then we're all apes.
Oh, this is the problem I've got when we were. I don't really want to mention that because I would prefer for the African Humanist to be back. But I will. About the where you decide historically was valid. It's like the problem in Northern Ireland now where they're arguing about it. Well, at what point did that country being won become valid?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's no real claim. The historical claims are mostly meaningless. I don't think they hold any water. But equally, I don't know. I mean, you see it in the States with the race stuff, in terms of how long is reasonable for reparations, for trying to compensate somebody. I mean, I definitely think that within a lifetime is nowhere near long enough to turn around and say, we took this thing off you. We took this thing off you. I don't think I think grandparents do it. We took this thing off your grandparents. We stole this from your grandparents. I don't think you can. But your grandparents' grandparents?
I would argue that where I think the line should be drawn is where there's still a significant impact caused by it.
Well, in the United States,
go on.
In the United States, there's no question that race is still affected by what happened with slavery during the slave times, because even though slavery was ended in 1865. Black people were still virtual slaves to a certain extent for at least another 100 years.
No, I mean the States are screwed because you still had active laws 30 years ago, and I'm not convinced that they've really all gone away yet. But to answer Sam's point, Crimea is a very good example. 60, 70, 80, 90, I can't remember, years ago, the Soviet Union moved a load of Rus people in there, and then several decades later, they're in a position to turn around and say, well, that's ours. And the worst thing is they would have won the referendum. If Crimea had a legitimate referendum, they probably would have won it. Mm-hmm. Because of the population that got moved in, that the actual natives were basically moved out and killed off. So that's where I find it very interesting. Do you say you're rewarding the victors there from a century ago?
I'm not sure who you're asking. If you're asking
Sam.
me or Sam, okay.
See, I'm thinking about that. That's not a situation that I actually know a whole lot about.
Oh, well, in terms of what you need to know, it is relatively similar to what I described. There was a native population there less than 100 years ago. The Soviet Union moved a load of ethnically Rus people to there. They basically consider themselves Russian. And they are now outnumbered that was the original native population there. And that's it. I mean, Crimea was not something that traditionally belonged to Ukraine. It was allocated to Ukraine again by the Soviet Union for administrative purposes. When they declared independence, it kind of went with them as part of that administrative region. But other than that, that's it.
It's not too much different than what the UK did to Australia.
No, very much so.
All right, so I don't know what functionally reparations we'd be talking about here then.
Well, no, and that's sorry, I wasn't really in reparations. I was more going back to at what point does the line in terms of who that land belongs to? Does that land belong to the ethnic people that were there 100 years ago, or to the Rus people that are there now, and hence become part of Russia?
Mm-hmm.
Or again,
I
you could use Israel Palestine as another good example.
Very much so, but I tend to avoid that as much as I can.
I can understand that one.
I would tend towards it's like less than 100 years. I would still lean towards the native people, but that's with the limited information I have.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's a massively complicated eco-social political issue.
In American, that's called a clusterfuck.
I mean, it's like why did the US? I see no justification for Mexico not joining the US as much as Texas is, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, but I wouldn't want to have Mexico as part of the US. I think we would be inheriting more problems than anything else.
I think you're probably right, but that's not my point. My point is that how do you justify having Texas and not having Mexico?
Good point. Good point.
But didn't Texas vote?
Texas was part of.
Yes.
Texas
Then again, they
also
also voted to secede in 1861, like the other southern states. So
I think Manda wants Mexico to join the Union.
Mm-hmm.
That will never happen. See, I did like the idea. There was someone in Mexico who said something about, when Trump was on about the border wall, and getting Mexico to pay for it. And someone from Mexico actually said, yeah, we'll happily do that. It says, however, if we can have the wall along the pre-1848 borders.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that all of Texas and half of California?
California, New Mexico, Arizona, yeah.
Yep. If we could get Mexico without the drug cartels, then I would definitely take Mexico. It's the drug cartels that frighten me.
I think the drug cartels you get rid of relatively quickly. Once you start, assuming you can enforce your laws in Mexico, they'll move to somewhere else.
I mean, I've been reading recently that the Colombian cartels are becoming the more powerful ones again, and then the Mexicans are kind of more of the middlemen once again. As long as there's a market for cocaine, it's going to be the cartels.
Again, this is what annoys me. It annoys me that this is one of those things. Okay, that the right really, 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 really pisses me off. We know what doesn't work with drugs now, right? And we don't have the ideal solutions, but we do know that criminalizing them doesn't work outright. It costs everybody. Making them legal, tax the damn things. But they make it a moral issue and keep them illegal.
We have a question. We have a question from Secular Rarity. I've heard anecdotes that the SNP is becoming more transphobic, but I haven't personally seen anything. Do any of the guests have any thoughts or resources on this? First, what's the SNP?
The Scottish National Party. Now, I don't follow the SNP too closely. I will say I think there's a misinterpretation that a lot of people have that there is something of a alternative left up there, which they're really not. It wouldn't surprise me if there is an issue with.
Right,
it wouldn't surprise me if there's a similar issue.
Okay, most of them are right. There is. They are leaning towards the transphobic route, but I think they're going to be saved by the fact that the majority of them are leaving the SNP and going to, is it ALBA?
Oh, is that the name of the group?
So, the
Alex
the
Salmond's
thing around,
new party.
Yeah.
so the thing around the SNP was that the there was some stuff that came up with,
That's right, yes.
with several of their members when Scotland tried to amend the I think it was the Gender Equality Act, such that trans people could change their gender without having to have complete medical surgery and pay several grand first. And several members of the SNP voted against it, which Nicola Sturgeon has come out and basically had a go at them for.
Makes sense.
So I wouldn't say necessarily that the party is, but there are
The
certainly
SNP
transphobic
stands
people
for
within the
what?
party.
Oh, Esther's back.
What did the SNP stand for? Sorry.
Scottish National Party.
Right. Okay. Right.
I'm just baffled at how much anti-trans legislation there is across the globe. You know, we see it in the UK. It's rampant here in the United States, and I don't know about the rest of the world, but
I'm
wondering.
terrified.
I think
I am too.
a lot of our
well, no. The problem is right now the spanner is being put in the works by organisations like the LGB Alliance, and I can't find out where that's being funded from. Right, the Tory party has disbanded the LGBT advisory group in government, and I will put money that the LGB Alliance manages to make it onto the new one.
That would not surprise me at all.
So I am especially concerned because a year ago, my waiting time to get onto into a gender identity clinic would have been 4 years. Now it's 9.
Mm.
Can you not get into the new one?
No, they're shifting people over from other waiting lists apparently.
Fair enough.
But even so, it's still a waiting list of probably 9 years unless I go private. And I'm non-binary, so certain clinics are going to be funny with me about that. And for anyone who didn't know in the chat, I am non-binary. Generally speaking, they, them pronouns, please.
Yeah, I just don't get it. You know, I realize that the right doesn't like transgender people, but yeah, the push to absolutely destroy them as a people group is something that just blows my mind.
They seem to be of the view that trans people don't actually exist, a lot of them.
Yeah.
The problem is they lost the gay battle, and it's a wedge.
Yeah.
It's a wedge. Trans is just a wedge for them, and that really fucking annoys me because it tokenizes them completely.
I mean, I noticed
literally the exact same arguments for homophobia are now being used for transphobia, right down to the bathrooms thing.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of them actually think that trans is a choice?
Yes.
You think you can just
most of them still think gay is a choice.
Yeah, my nana asked me recently why I chose to be gay.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Did you tell them so you could get so that you get the invite to the gay agenda meetings?
See, I said that's not how that works, and my nana was not pleased yesterday. I told her I'm pagan.
I forgot your family was quite religious.
Oh goodness.
Oh, for those not familiar, my family are non-denominational Pentecostal.
I mean, when I was coming to the UK, because I've been in the UK about nearly 20 years. At the time, they said, because they in Africa, they said the two countries that you could go to in the world that are Christian countries, the UK and the US. So you've picked a perfectly good choice. You know, you can practice being a Christian without anybody. So, you know, 20 years down the line, yeah, I'm not sure if people can actually say they're Christian countries.
I think that the UK is technically a Christian country, but not really, and the US isn't technically a Christian country, but is really.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't think any country can lay claim and say we are Christian, because there are people who are not Christian in your country.
But they don't believe that.
It just wouldn't work.
They don't believe that.
What about Muslim countries?
That's where I was coming from.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically, latest statistics I've seen is about, in terms of regular church attendance, okay, in the UK, is about 11% of the population. Now, that's just to attend. That isn't even splitting it into the denominations in itself. So if I was to say the Church of England or something, I would guess that'd probably be about 2 or 3% of that.
No,
Probably.
I think the Church of England's probably. I think the Church of England is over half of our people.
I think
Okay,
that
so should we say 5? Should we say 6?
5 or 6. Yeah.
6% of the country who are regular C of E churchgoers.
Yeah. I think the
But
thing
they
is that
can, how
most
many
people
schools
who
they
are
control?
Yeah, and they got 26 seats in the House of Lords.
Sorry, Sam, I interrupted you twice.
You're all good. So, most people who identify as culturally Christian go with the Church of England because it's a safe bet.
Yeah,
I was surprised
I-
to discover. I was christened actual C of E.
I mean, I was in the Church of England.
Mm.
I was getting ready to go to panel to become a priest with the Church of England, and the population of the church comprised mainly of the older generation, people.
Oh yeah, there'll be significantly less churchgoers in 20 years.
Yeah, and the younger generation, you find more people from Black and ethnic minority countries, but the younger generation, it was hard to find people between the ages of from teenagehood to 50, 60. It's hard.
I am mildly concerned by the fact that my nana's church has doubled in size recently, and most of them are fairly young people.
Yeah, there has been a push. There has been, and I am disturbed actually at how much that outreach has been in universities and colleges.
It's been a lot also in central Manchester. Whenever I've walked through there, I've seen at least like 5 or 6, where there were usually 2 or 3.
I could tell you stories, but I've got to be very careful because I'm not really allowed to talk about the person. We got back this on an office in Manchester. One of the big C of E churches there. They were talking to the vicar, and they basically dismissed all the theological questions and made it about community. All the district, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about that.
Yeah,
and that really bugs me because I get the problem is the community is important, but they take it with it gives them a power over the theological stuff.
See, I would be perfectly comfortable with that approach if you didn't require certain beliefs to be in the community.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a mistake, which I can't really talk to Sam about this because we might very much disagree. Right? If the atheist community really needs a community hub, it needs a church, it needs churches, it needs. Well, it's not even that. Society needs to start. The governments really need to start offering what churches did well.
I would agree, honestly.
Yeah,
Right.
I also would agree, because when the pandemic hit, and there was a group that formed, and these people they're creating communities of people who are, just for people to engage during the lockdown. And I approached them and said I'd like
agree.
to create a community of unbelievers.
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't heard back.
Problem is,
I
I
would-
don't think it's going to
I
work
still-
without someone paid.
There are
I
communities. There are communities of religious people. There are
Yes.
those communities there. But I wanted to, let's start something for unbelievers. But
I'll
I've
be honest,
seen Go on.
if there was an atheist church near me, provided they didn't require you to be an atheist, I'd probably go along and help.
I think there's a humanist church near you. I have seen recently that some doctors' surgeries are proposing having a counsellor on call, which I think might be a step in the right direction for that. Having someone on call, not someone but someone that you can just talk to. That's attached to surgery.
We're supposed to have things like the Samaritans, but that's not functionally great.
No, they broke. The problem you've got is, again, you wouldn't realise this. Okay, we have completely broken, and I mean completely broken, charities in the UK.
Yeah.
Okay? Because what the government did was they said, okay, you're a children's charity. You look after this. We're going to stop. We're just going to give you some money and then stop doing it. We're going to withdraw all our services and just give you some money. And then over the next decade, cut your money. So all these great things we had charities were doing, charities have just turned into underfunded government departments. Without being government departments, they're the ones to blame. And we've watched it over and over again with charities in the UK. And they care less and less about the people they're meant to be caring for, and more about the government contracts that they've got, because that's where the majority of their money comes from.
Yeah, that's how they survive. That's a bit yikes.
I was just say Kevin's
I
definitely.
sort of... Go on, sorry.
I was just saying, I was just light-hearted thing, but Kevin's definitely getting into the theme of the stream here. You can't get more British than listening to us and the Clash at the same time.
See, I have noticed that even within my lifetime, charities have become less and less about trying to help and more about trying to survive out of necessity.
Yeah.
And it helps that my mum used to run a regional area of the NCT.
To me, this is the community. When I want community support, this is where I go.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot to be said. Obviously, this is the online kind of community, but I still think that is a very, very small percentage of, should we say, the atheist community? Should we say? Yeah. This is a very small part of that. I think, which is something I think we sometimes need to recognise. Now, there are certain people in it, obviously, that who do have big channels who are very much influencers in the wider atheist community. I don't think I could count myself in that level where I am at all. But obviously some people are big influencers, but I do think we have to recognise our little online community is a very small percentage of the atheist community, and
I'd say a bad representative as well.
Yeah, quite often we are. I think quite often we are a bad.
I don't mean bad. I don't mean bad necessarily in that we are bad in. We can be, but what I mean is we are not. We don't represent the majority of atheists.
Let's be honest. We are generally a load of us who are on the whatever. We are the loud atheists, by and large. Yeah, we are the loud ones. And it's always a little difficult when you are. I mean, if you think really, what is it that actually unites us? And it is a position on the existence of a deity.
No, what unites us is we're available during the day to go on stream.
Atheists as a whole. I mean, that is what unites atheists.
I have a sort of similar view, I think, where like the online community of pagans is great and it's growing, but the vast majority of pagans I know never mention it to anybody else ever. And it would be nice to have some sort of physical community space, like in Meat Space as well. And I have a long-term idea for that, but it's very long-term.
Well, one issue I have is like Facebook. There's lots and lots of atheist groups on Facebook, and I get invitations from them all the time, and I've joined several of them, but I get so many notifications from so many of these that I just ignore them now.
I do. That's why I've kind of cut the amount of, put a limit on the amount of Twitter groups I'm in for the very similar reason. But and I've left a couple of the atheist groups on Facebook because some of them are just awful. Some of them are absolutely awful, and it is just generally because they're not necessarily, you get the invite and join them or whatever, and they're not necessarily what they are advertising on the tin, should we say. A lot of it in this saying, like, we're trying to promote atheism, skepticism, critical thinking, whatever. And then it's just some of the most lazy, mindless bashing on religion that I've seen that has no intellectual honesty whatsoever, and I've just left so many of these groups for that. What
do you mean? Telling me that all Christians aren't mentally ill and delusional?
Exactly.
Damn! I should have said theists. I could have got Sam in there too.
Yeah, I was going to say you missed me out there, Dave.
Actually, don't you think we should take it one step further? All humans are delusional.
Yes.
Sorry, I think Esther's trying to get something in.
Sorry.
It's okay. In my opinion, I honestly try not to bash and not to but the things I see every day, the things that come out, the videos that I see, you can't help these things. The latest video, I've put it on my YouTube channel. Yeah. It's a pastor telling the members they've brought a machete to church. And they've all sat there with the machete, hitting this machete on the ground. And so whatever you do in the physical will affect the devil in the spiritual. I mean, where do you go? Where do you go trying
you
to...
You have to ridicule.
I think that...
Two seconds. I'm going. Right, the problem you've got is there are two problems we have to solve, okay? One of them is building our community. And that's very different from ripping the shit out of people that are genuinely... Yeah, because we have to do that. We have to make other people see how ridiculous what it is they are doing.
I would tell you something. The very first time Godless Granny invited me onto her show, I put the ad what you'd done. I put it on my Instagram. I'm more active on Instagram because I love pictures. And let me tell you, it got conversations going. Just that word, godless, for a lot of people who it was bold. It was, godless, a godless granny. Who is she? And who, how can people be so bold to say, just the word, to call yourself that? I'm not bold enough just yet to call myself Godless Humanist. My name will change in the near future.
I
think
can
that
I actually give you a little bit of advice there? Don't put Godless in your handle. There's probably too many of us using that. There's me. There's obviously Granny. There's Godless Sewing I've seen in the chat. Godless Engineer. Godless Cranium. I think in
Godless
a way,
Island.
Godless
I was going to
Island,
suggest the African Atheist. Because
Godless,
it's an
Godless African.
The African Atheist still gives you some being alliterative.
Yeah.
It doesn't put atheist first, so if you try to tag someone, you put atheist, you're going to get a dozen names. But by having African before atheist, that helps a lot.
My name will change soon because the word humanist doesn't really. It doesn't.
It's a bit of a cop out when you're trying to fight them.
Exactly.
But my point
I like it. I like it, but I think again, it's one of those things. You want humanist if you're trying to community build. You want atheist if you're trying to fight them. Go.
My point about a lot of the Facebook groups is not that it was bashing; it was lazy bashing of religion. Just really bad, very bad. You know, bad arguments that were just being perpetuated and spun. And that's sometimes I see one of the frustrations is almost the tribalistic nature I've seen in some of them. Now, I will tell you now that I had a massive argument when I just tried to correct something on something someone had got wrong. Now, they had posted a link to, so people are familiar with that film Zeitgeist, right? Are people familiar with that? It's been out about 10, 15 years or so. But there's a whole section in there on religion and the whole thing about how Christianity took certain things from, previous pagan deities. That particular movie got so much wrong on it, but for me to try and argue with these people that they got with other atheists that this thing was historically they got so much wrong here. I was an undercover Christian to them, It made it's quite, and I see this I sometimes see this if there is trying to correct something that is against the popular narrative, and it does frustrate me.
There was one time you had a guest on Godless Scummer. You had a guest,
Tim. That'd be Tim. I know where you're going.
It was interesting to just listen to him and talking about the well-known atheists in the atheist community and debunking some of them. I thought that was interesting. Because, for someone like myself who, you look at these people and think, oh gosh, they know their stuff. And to hear someone actually debunk these people, I thought, so it just goes.
I'll just say that because, I'll say that because I know who you saw. The episode I had Tim O'Neill on. I don't agree with Tim on everything. I got to be honest. But I will say this: yes, he does correct a lot of bad history that a lot of I've heard a lot of, should we say, prominent YouTubers put out there. Now he picked on GE a lot. I felt a bit unfairly. I think he picked on GE because I think he kept going back to GE, and I felt a little bit.
Yeah,
I'll say from what I could tell from all the historical sources I saw, that his correction of a lot of the stuff Seth Andrews got wrong about pagan origins of Christmas, Tim's stuff seemed to hold up, and I have seen him being called an undercover Christian for that. Now, I don't necessarily agree with Tim on every single thing, and Tim, I will say, can be a little bit sharp with some of his
Abrasive.
criticisms of.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very abrasive.
I will
In
acknowledge
my
that.
opinion, in my
Yeah.
opinion, it was
Yeah,
good to
but-
see that, because
Yeah.
I felt like before putting information out there, verify, fact check, and
You
don't
can't
just
fact
put it-
check, but you can't fact check theology. Okay, and
Mhm.
it's where I think that Tim really messes up. It is attacking GE because GE's sources are valid. They are debated in the academic community. They can't just be dismissed because the consensus is different.
I mean, let's be honest, and this is not a knock on GE, okay, but GE's source, and I will say source, is Carrier.
Yeah. Yes,
That
but the
is
point
the
is,
thing.
Carrier's paper
Yeah.
is published, is peer-reviewed,
is
is
within
within valid academic press.
Would have been better for Tim to maybe criticize Carrier, because really GE.
Well, this is my point.
Yeah,
you can't criticize Carrier without going through the same process. In the same way, we can't just throw out what they say theologically in academic press and just dismiss it. He can't just dismiss Carrier.
I don't just dismiss Carrier. I found a lot of I've read that book on the historicity of Jesus, and for the most part, it is a very good book.
Take some leaps at the end,
but he took a massive leap at the end. That's where I just at the point of it, I just was like. But I've seen people just absolutely parrot what Carrier says at the end, and it's like, I'm like, hold on, Carrier was taking a massive leap there. And the book that I mentioned to Tim on this one, that I've heard, I will say, I've heard some atheists parrot this, although I will say this is a minority. Is the book. Caesar's Messiah by Joseph Atwill. That is one of the most awful, and I'm not even a trained historian. I know that is historical. That is absolute garbage. Reading it, that it is that the logic and reasoning of it is all basically I mean, it's like all of it is argued to be based on like numerology and stuff like this, and it's like. This is the sort of stuff that I'm not being funny. It's a sort of level of argument I expect to see from a flat earther.
It's what's affectionately known among kind of pagans as a fluffy bunny. Pseudoscience and historical revisionism. That I think my thing with Tim is that he makes a lot of good points. He does not communicate a lot of good points.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment, I'd say.
And like, I will go on. Sorry, Connie.
Oh no, you finish first, because I'm going to change this to an entirely different topic.
Yeah, sorry, we got into a rabbit hole there. Or something.
I will acknowledge, as the pagan in the room, that as much as I joke about it, Christmas is significantly less pagan than a lot of people like to make out in terms of religious tradition, even if culturally it is.
I watched Religion for Breakfast on this one, and I am flabbergasted that the most probable cause for Christmas is Easter.
Oh yeah,
it's just backdated Easter,
pretty much
because it's the only thing they're just 9 months before Easter. And then you look at the Orthodox tradition; their Christmas is not the same day as ours. Their Christmas is a week before, and their Easter is a week before ours. Sorry,
yeah.
Whichever way.
Now Easter is a bit more pagan, but it's still not pagan.
Yeah, I find that disturbing.
I will back in a second.
Well, what I was going to say next is we've been going for nearly an hour and a half now, so I think it's time for us to go ahead and shut this down, even though there's a lot more that I think we could talk about, and we'll just have to do it again sometime. But for now, we'll go ahead and go around and let everyone shill for anyone that they want to shill for. Tell us what's coming up on your channel, and then we'll just call it a day and come back another time. So, Dave, let's start with you.
Well, normal quiz is on Tuesday nights, and I've got a new daily show starting in a few weeks. It's going to be a daily piss take of the news and hopefully a bit educational.
Okay. Jeff, are you
Back.
I'm not sure if he's there. He might be on break. Okay. Esther, what have you got?
So at the moment, I'm still trying to find trying to find the right balance with YouTube and. But for the moment, I'm just putting out videos, things that interest me and things that I see, and I, just that make me livid. I just see things and I think, gosh, I've got to share this and, just get this out there, and hopefully people will start to see how nonsensical these things are and how ridiculous these things are. And hopefully with time, I will be doing more live shows. There's one particular show I would like to do in the near future, once I get things all sorted, about being accused of being a witch, and just the impact of that, and just how it all happened, and because they take these things very literal. So if they say you're a witch, if I was back in Africa, I probably, would have been taken to some organization, locked up somewhere, and the witchcraft taken out of me somehow.
I'll just say, if you were called a witch in Sam's community, you'd probably be very much on. That would be very much a compliment.
Oh yeah, I just as vaguely in actual witch.
Kitty the Atheist used to be a witch. She was a member of the Wiccans. Nothing wrong with witches.
Yeah.
Someone asked the question, where does Esther live? I live in the United Kingdom.
I'm breaking it completely. I also have to apologise. Mama Atheist is my new host. I didn't mention that.
Who's Mama Atheist?
Pale Blue Mama.
Thank you, Dave. I just thought I'd correct you there.
Yeah, Amanda.
And Jeff, what do you have coming up?
Okay, now I should be doing. As you know, I've been doing a long-standing thing with Noodle, where we've been going through the Asterix books. I should be doing one of them tomorrow on Noodle's channel. Other than that, I've got nothing planned, but I am off. But I will say I'm off work next week, and I'm thinking maybe the wacky world of Twitter needs to make a comeback as I'm off. And
Twitter needs to make a comeback first.
Well, I'm thinking former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, because that guy tweets some nonsense out. So,
get Mo Brooks.
Let me know if anyone. Let me know if they'd like to be part of that. I'll probably do that. I'll probably do that Wednesday or Thursday next week if I do it. So,
okay, Sam, what do you have going on?
So I have the third episode, words, of Pub Religion, coming out on Wednesday. My video on pronouns will be out by the end of the month. The last week has been insane. And I would like to suggest everyone go and watch Maddie's debate with Kent Hovind on Modern Day Debate. This one wasn't a dumpster fire.
Oh. Unlike the one with Nathan Thompson.
Oh yeah, the one with Maddie's debates with Nathan Thompson and Kent Hovind were basically just her explaining science to the audience.
Yeah.
And what I have coming up is Tuesday. I will not be doing the stream at my usual time. I have a video that is finished and has been released to my patrons, which is a response to Brian Holdsworth's claim that pronouns are tyranny. Sam, you're going to love this one.
But you need a capital G on God.
Now, see, here's the fun thing about pronouns is if I didn't use pronouns for Granny, then talking to Jeff, I would have to say, oh, and then Granny said this and Granny said that and da 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 da, because those are pronouns too.
Well, my point, one of the points I made is saying, according to him, saying, "Hi, I'm Mrs. Smith," is
Okay.
tyranny.
My preferred pronouns are Lord, Master, or Darth.
As a general rule, if I'm joking around, I will say my pronouns are "fuck you."
So anyway, that I will release that one on Monday, and then I'm not sure how I'm going to be feeling next week, so I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be doing next week, and then I'll be back to regular schedule the following week. And yes, Math Pig, I'm also sorry that you couldn't make it. Yes, family does have to come first, and so we certainly understand that. But thank you so much to Dave. Thank you to Jeff. Thank you to Sam, and thank you to Esther. Thank you to everyone in the chat that has come and has added to the conversation. This has been an absolute wonderful time. And bye all.